Hi, I'm Jennifer, and welcome to the Haunted Hour. It was supposed to be the perfect getaway, a quiet Airbnb in Hawaii, but then came the rules. Strange ones. Don't answer the door, no matter who's knocking. Don't open the windows after dark. And, whatever you do, never go near the water after midnight. At first, I thought it was a joke, but the island has secrets and this house, it doesn't want me to leave. Let's begin and be sure to follow the rules. If you don't, they'll make you. I wanted a break from my gray cubicle life. So I booked an Airbnb on a secluded stretch of Hawaii's Hana Coast. The host's photos showed a rustic cottage perched above rocky black sand, with palm fronds swaying under a pastel sunset. When I arrived, the path was overgrown and narrow, almost hidden by ferns. The door swung open before I knocked, revealing a warmly lit living room lined with wicker furniture and Aboriginal carvings. On the coffee table sat a heavy, leather-bound book labeled Rules for Guests in gilded letters. My heart fluttered. I expected generic no smoking fuss. Instead, the first rule read, remove sandals at the threshold, even in daylight. A second rule warned, never face west after sunset. I chuckled nervously and slipped off my shoes. The air smelled of salt, wood, and something faintly herbal like incense. I glanced at the host, but she was already gone up the stairs without a word. As the sun dipped behind the ocean, I explored the cottage's 2 small bedrooms. Each bed was draped in white linens and coconut shell night lamps. I noticed a third locked door at the end of the hall, its handle carved in the shape of a crescent moon. A sign read, Rule 3, do not open this door. Ever. Curiosity pricked my skin, but I obeyed. Instead, I wandered onto the open-air veranda, breathing in the warm breeze. Beneath me, the waves crashed on rock with a roar like distant thunder. In the darkness beyond the railing, I thought I saw a flicker, like a lantern moving across the headland. I blinked and it was gone. My phone buzzed with a notification. Remember the rules. My pulse quickened. I swore I hadn't opened the book. Back inside, I found an old recorder on a shelf with a note. Rule 4, listen at midnight. At 12 a.m., I pressed play. A scratchy voice intoned, they will come for the careless. Then, if you hear footsteps on the roof, stay in bed. My stomach turned at the thought of someone walking above me. I slipped under the mosquito net and waited. The night crept by in the hush of the tropics. At 2:17 a.m., I heard it. Soft taps on the wooden shingles, pacing as if circling. Rule or not, I threw back the sheets and shone my flashlight into the rafters. Nothing but tangled beams and dust. But then, a face stared down at me from the darkness, its eyes glowing orange. I screamed, and the figure vanished before I could blink. I woke hours later to sunlight slanting through palm fronds. My throat was raw from screaming. I stumbled outside to the garden, desperate for fresh air. Dozens of coconuts lay cracked on the ground, their flesh carved into spiral patterns matching the crescent door handle. A tingle ran down my spine when I saw they formed a circle around the locked door. I remembered Rule 5. Never disturb the offering circle. Yet my foot brushed one of the coconuts and it split open, revealing coarse white hair inside. I yanked my foot back, nearly toppling. Then I heard a distant chant, rhythmic and low, echoing through the palms. I ran back into the cottage, my pulse racing with dread. By afternoon, I was too shaken to stay. I packed a bag, determined to leave, but the front door refused to open. I tugged, pushed, no budge. I frowned and checked my phone. Still no signal. The host's binder lay open on the floor, bookmarked at a new rule. Rule 6. Do not attempt departure. My breath caught in my throat, and new passage read, when the island claims you, no road leads back. I tore the binder from the shelf and tried to flip to the first page, but the book was blank. My hands shook so hard the pages fluttered. Behind me, the cottage door slowly creaked closed on its own. I spent the rest of the day exploring the rocky shore. The tide was unnaturally low, revealing jagged reefs like broken ribs. In the shallow pools, I saw shapes moving beneath the surface, long limbs, pale skin. I aimed my camera, but each time I captured a photo, the screen glitched to static. Frustrated, I tossed the camera into the surf. A final image lingered, a shadowy figure watching me from the edge of the rocks. I ran back to the cottage soaked and heart pounding. Inside, the narrow hallway lights flickered. I realized I hadn't heard a single bird or insect all day. Even the ocean seemed muted. Night came again. I barricaded the door with a chair and climbed into bed. The binder clutched under my arm. My flashlight lay at my side, but I dared not use it. At 11:59, the recorder clicked on by itself. The same voice whispered, "The path is open." Then a new instruction. Rule 7. Walk the path alone to prove your worth. I rubbed my eyes. There was no obvious path outside. I flung open the crescent door and stepped onto a narrow plank that now extended into the moonlit jungle. My heart thumped. With nowhere else to go, I followed it into the trees. The bamboo thicket swallowed me. The plank wound between trunks, each step echoing like a heartbeat in my ears. In the moonlight, I saw small bones skittering across the path, bird skulls, tiny vertebrae. Then I glimpsed footprints made of mud and blood. I quickened my pace, but the prints led onward, deeper into the forest. I heard leaves rustle beside me. I spun, shining my light, but nothing was there. The plank ended at a clearing I didn't expect. A circle of ancient stones, each carved with a different symbol. A fire pit smoldered in the center. 6 masks lay on stones, bamboo, bone, coconut shells. On the far side of the clearing, a shape emerged. Kanoa, the host, wearing one of the masks. She led me into the circle and gestured for me to choose a mask. My legs refused to move. She spoke softly. Rule 8. Wear the mask and you may leave. My throat dried. I glanced at the other masks, each more grotesque than the last. One bone with tusks, one wood with wormholes, one coconut face split down the middle. My breath fluttered. Kanoa's smile was too wide, her eyes too dark. I understood then I was next. I reached for a mask, shaking, horrified by the weight of the choice. The fire roared to life, despite no wood added. Shadows leapt on the stones. I could see movement beyond the ring, shapes circling just out of sight. A low voice boomed in my head. Choose, or we choose for you. My hand trembled as I lifted the shell mask, its interior coated in dark resin. I hesitated, then pulled it over my face. The world went red. I fell to my knees as the mask fused my skin like a wound. Pain exploded across my skull. I screamed. When I came to, I was back on the veranda, the ocean tide rising beneath me. The binder lay beside me. Now empty pages turned to ash. My phone buzzed with a message. Part 2. The masks awaken. I fell backward, legs gone numb. In the dark window glass, I saw myself, face hollow, mask etched into flesh. Behind me, distant chanting rose from the trees. The rules were not finished, and neither was I. Part 2. Consequences Unbound. I woke in a cold sweat on the living room floor. The mask fused my skin. My head pounded, vision blurred by sticky film over my eyes. I struggled upright and saw the binder on the coffee table, empty, pages trembling beneath it. Rule 1 flickered in my memory. Remove sandals at the threshold. I remembered stepping onto the veranda barefoot at dawn, a foolish break. At that moment, a searing agony shot through my arches and into my legs. My toes felt as though they were splitting open, raw nerves exposed. I crumpled back to the floor as the agony pulsed in time with the crashing surf. Through the haze of pain, I heard soft chittering, tiny claws on wood. Something unseen in the rafters moved closer, its breath hot on my neck. I screamed until my throat went raw, but the house remained oppressively silent. The mask on my face felt warmer, as if feeding on my suffering. Later that morning, I tried to shower, hoping to wash away the horror. Rule 2 rang in my mind. Do not touch or rearrange any painting. I had moved the painting of the smiling woman to face the window. Now her eyes followed me mercilessly, black voids leaking tar. When I turned to put it back, the frame was nailed to the wall. I tugged at it until splinters ran up my arms, tasting copper. Behind the canvas, the plaster cracked and oozed a dark sap. The floor below bore fresh footprints, 6, then 7 leading nowhere. A sudden crash upstairs made my heart fall into my stomach. I darted to the staircase, praying the rules still held some power. At the top, the locked cabinet lay open, its door twisted off the hinge. Inside, a pale hand reached toward me, fingers snapping like bones. That night, I lit every candle in the cottage, filling the air with smoky light. Rule 8 warned, leave candles burning at night. Do not extinguish them. I heard a single flame gutter when I looked away, leaving a sudden chill. In the flicker's shadow, a figure stood at the window, watching with hollow eyes. I froze, too terrified to scream, as the figure dissolved into the veranda's mist. When I turned back, the entire room was dark except for one flickering candle. I stumbled forward, yanked a match, and relit the flame, only to find soot-stained floorboards. They spelled out a message. You will leave nothing unsaid. My breath caught as the air filled with distant chanting, women's voices rising in a dirge. The candle exploded in my hand, setting my sleeve ablaze. I threw myself onto the carpet, smothering the fire, and sobbed in pain. The chanting lingered even after the heat died, echoing through my skull. Determined to break free, I packed my bag at first light, ignoring Rule 6's warning, do not attempt departure. The front door would not budge, no matter how hard I pulled. Windows were fused shut, as if welded with molten resin. I smashed a porch chair against the glass, but it only cracked in bleak patterns. Frustration turned to terror when I saw fresh footprints leading away from the door. They vanished into the forest, beckoning me to follow. Against my better judgment, I stepped outside with only the morning breeze. The path I hiked in was gone, replaced by thorny vines that writhed like snakes. I chased the footprints deeper, each step sucking me further from the cottage. Birdsong was silent. The world felt hollow, as if life had fled this place. I reached a clearing where the sun never touched the ground. In that cursed glade, dozens of masks hung from twisted branches. Rule 4 echoed. If you hear chanting, do not leave your room. I heard chanting now, a low, rhythmic hum that vibrated through my bones. The masks rotated slowly, their expressions flickering between joy and pain. I tried to look away, but my eyes were drawn to a familiar porcelain face. It was the mask I wore, now abandoned, dangling on a rope of vines. When my fingers brushed it, the ground shuddered and the chanting ceased. The forest felt like it inhaled sharply, then exhaled a cold, stinking breath. I staggered backward as a voice whispered in my ear, "You broke Rule 7. I shook my head, trying to clear the whispering from my thoughts. Rule 7. Never sleep outside your bed. I realized I had collapsed right here, on cold earth last night. Panic clawed at me. I raced back through the undergrowth toward my cottage. Branches reached out and scraped my skin, drawing rivulets of blood. Every tree seemed to watch me, their faces carved in bark twisting in pain. When I stumbled into the clearing by my door, I found fresh footprints, mine. But the boot prints weren't mine. They were too small and walked backward. Inside, I tossed my bag on the floor and slammed the door. Rule 12 clanged in my mind. Should scratching start, lock your door and pray. The scratching began immediately, fast, urgent, like someone clawing at wood from inside. I locked every bolt, pushed furniture against each entrance, and sank on the sofa. My only comfort was the binded book. Some rules remained unwritten. Then I noticed a new page had appeared. Your body has a new home. Behind the writing, I sensed a presence creeping closer. The roaring sea outside suddenly stilled, and the cottage lights grew dim. I tried to call for help, but the phone displayed only static. A mirror on the wall fogged, my breath visible despite closed windows. I stared as words formed. Provide the offering. I whispered back. I'll never follow your rules again. The reflection smirked, and my image leaned forward, taller, wrong. A crash came from the locked cabinet, with splitting under invisible force. The door flew open. Inside, a small box lay, carved with a spiral crescent. My name was etched into its lid in trembling letters. I reached out and opened it. Inside was a pebble-sized heart, pulsing. I dropped the box and ran for the back door, which fell open without resistance. Moonlight spilled in, and the chanting resumed, swelling like waves. Outside, the air was thick with mist. Lanterns flickered among the palms. Figures moved in the haze. 6 silhouettes in hooded robes. Each held a mask matching those in the clearing. They raised their heads and began to chant in unison. He broke the rules. My steps faltered as they lifted their arms toward me. Rule 11 echoed. When the forest beckons, you are chosen. I realized then the true cost of my arrogance. These strangers were my welcome party, my jailers, my executioners. Their chant grew louder as they advanced, boots silent on the black sand. I turned, desperate to flee toward the ocean's black edge. A sudden wave slammed me, pulling me into cold water. Darkness swallowed me and the chanting. I awoke on a distant shore, dawn burning my eyes. My clothes were torn, skin marred by cuts and bruises. In the sand beside me lay the binder, pages blank once more. No footprints, no cottage, no masks. My phone buzzed with one final text. Rules reset at midnight. Trembling, I cradled the binder, tears salty with fear. Some rules could never be outrun. Some punishments would always remain. I turned back to the waves, searching the horizon. The forest lay invisible beyond the dunes. I whispered a vow to never return. And yet, in my pocket, I felt the mask's pulse. Story 2. The Airbnb that didn't want me to leave. I needed a break. From people, from work, from the constant noise in my head. So I booked a solo weekend in a small Airbnb cabin tucked deep in the Oregon woods. It looked perfect online. Cozy interior, wood-burning stove, porch with a forest view. The host, someone named Alaric, had no profile picture, but the listing had great reviews. I arrived just before sunset, tires crunching gravel as tall pines loomed on all sides. The air smelled of moss and rain, fresh but strangely heavy, like it hadn't been breathed in a while. As I approached the front door, the porch light flickered on without motion sensors. A small key was waiting in a bird-shaped tin, exactly as the message described. But taped to the door was a handwritten note. Do not lock the bedroom door at night. I laughed it off, thinking it was a joke or a weird host quirk. The cabin inside was clean, rustic, a little too pristine for being this deep in the woods. But exhaustion set in fast, and I was asleep before the fire died out. At exactly 3:12 a.m., I woke up to the sound of scratching, slow, deliberate, on the bedroom door. My heart thudded as I sat upright, trying to convince myself it was just a raccoon or tree branch. But the scratching was rhythmic. Fingernails on wood. Human. Then came the knock. 1, 2, then silence. I held my breath, straining to hear more, but nothing followed. I switched on the lamp. It didn't work. The bulb had shattered from the inside. The cabin suddenly felt colder, like something had stepped inside with the wind. Despite the rule, I reached over and turned the lock on the door. I couldn't help it. That's when something whispered on the other side. Wrong choice. A shadow passed beneath the door crack. It moved like smoke, but with weight. My eyes burned. My skin broke into goosebumps, and I swear the air hummed. Then nothing. Morning came as if none of it happened. I tried to leave. I packed everything and loaded the car, heart racing. But the car wouldn't start, battery dead. Despite being fine just hours before, I called for help but had no signal, even though I had 2 bars when I arrived. The host's number didn't go through. It just beeped, one long, slow tone. So I decided to hike toward the road, following the gravel path I drove in on. 10 minutes in, I realized I'd passed the same bent pine tree 3 times. The path looped, or the woods did, or time. I turned around in panic and ran back to the cabin, breath sharp and cold. When I arrived, the door was open even though I'd locked it. Inside, everything was exactly where I left it, except for a new note on the kitchen table. Try again tomorrow. Just follow the rules. And beneath it, a set of bloody fingernails arranged like a crescent. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat on the bed, staring at the door, lights on, flashlight ready. I didn't lock the bedroom door this time. I followed the rule, but at 3:12 a.m. again, the scratching started. Not at the door, but inside the walls. I heard something crawling beneath the floorboards, above the ceiling. It whispered in a language I couldn't place, like water boiling backwards. Suddenly, the closet door creaked open. I hadn't touched it since I arrived. Inside was a full-length mirror that hadn't been there before. And in the mirror, I saw myself, but I wasn't alone. A figure stood behind me, long, gray-limbed, hunched, with no eyes. I spun around, but nothing was there. The mirror, now cracked, showed only me. Or I thought it was me, until the reflection smiled when I didn't. I threw a blanket over it and slept on the couch, knife in hand. In the morning, my phone buzzed. One notification. No caller ID. It was a voicemail. Just static at first, then a voice. You shouldn't have come alone. I dropped the phone. It was ice cold, and the screen began glitching. I ran outside, only to find that the trees had shifted. The cabin was now in a clearing. No trail, no road, just endless forest in every direction. Back inside. A second mirror had appeared in the bathroom, written across it in condensation. Do you want to leave? Prove it. The kitchen radio crackled to life. A distorted version of my voice played back. It was me, screaming, begging, and something laughing just beyond my words. I smashed the radio, heart thundering, but the audio kept looping from inside the walls. I tore open the panel beneath the sink and found a wire recorder. The tape inside was labeled Attempt number 6. I tore through the cabin, looking for answers. Basement door locked, no key anywhere. Behind a painting of the woods, I found an envelope filled with old Polaroids. Different people, all in this cabin, all looking scared. Some bruised, some injured. One photo showed a woman screaming in front of the same bedroom door. On the back, it read, "She didn't follow the rules. They took her face." Another showed a man digging in the backyard under moonlight. His eyes were scratched out with something sharp. I dropped the envelope when I saw the last photo. It was me, sleeping, last night, taken from above my bed. I ran to the ceiling vent. Screws recently turned. Something had been watching me. Still was. I wanted to burn the place down. I even found matches in the fireplace drawer. But a final note appeared on the bedroom wall, painted in red this time. If you burn it, we burn you. Follow the rules or be replaced. That word, replace, dug into my mind. I wondered if the reflection in the mirror was a me, because I was already gone. I backed away, sobbing, when I saw the fireplace light up on its own. Flames rose, not orange, but white, licking the mantle without burning it. Inside the fire, I saw something move. A face, then a hand reaching. I slammed the iron gate shut and backed into the corner. Whispers filled the room, all saying the same thing. One more night. And just like that, it stopped. On the final day, I woke up to a new message on my phone. A confirmation email from Airbnb. Thank you for your stay. Please leave a review. The car was fixed. My phone had full bars. I got in and drove, heart pounding, not daring to look in the rear view. I didn't speak, didn't blink too long. I just drove until the trees changed and the air didn't hum anymore. But when I checked the app again, the listing was gone. My booking history? Erased. No trace of Alaric. No listing, no reviews. Only one saved draft in my Airbnb review section. It auto-filled itself with one sentence. The house is still watching.